First one is Tinder, and I know what a lot of people are thinking. Tinder is not just an app for promiscuous behavior.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Abroaders Travel Podcast, your weekly meetup with thousands of entrepreneurs, hustlers, creators, nomads, ninjas, wanderers, and world changers, all seeking to build the skills and connections to live a life without borders. If you want to learn more about what we do or download our entire podcast archive, check out the website, abroaders.com. Happy Wednesday morning and welcome to another episode of the Abroaders Travel Podcast. I'm Erik here with AJ, and today we are going to share some strategies for working abroad, getting a lot done, and still having a much higher quality of life thanks to your travels. Show notes can be found at abroaders.com/work.
So it's been a while, man, since we've pumped out a full episode in the same location. I can't even remember the last time.
Excited to be here, man. It's good to be in one place, not have to be messing with all the Skype crap. And I got some pretty cool stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, we're in beautiful Salvador, Brazil. It is warm, it is sunny, and the ocean is close. So what do you say we get into things?
Especially warm with that sacrifice of keeping all the fans and the air conditioners off to make sure that sound quality is as premium as it can be with our $30 microphone.
Yep, we are sweating our asses off because we love you guys that much. What do you say we get into some news and some updates? First piece of news is we've actually gotten some feedback from some of our premium customers and some of our community members that they've been targeted with an offer from Citi, one of the American Airlines cards, and it is 50,000 points with a $3,000 minimum spend, and that is not the best deal right now. There's still a link live on our site that you can find at abroaders.com/cards, and the bonus is still 50,000 points, but the minimum spend is only $2,000.
Yeah, so it definitely makes it possible to combine maybe an extra card into that round of applications. Won't hurt your spend quite as much. There's a pretty big difference between only having to spend $2,000 and having to spend that full $3,000. So check out abroaders.com/cards, and you'll be able to see the link. It's the Citi Platinum Select card. It's a really good card in addition to the fact that you get that nice bonus. This is one of the few cards that I do not have any intention of closing, even if I have to pay that annual fee. And the reason is that they give you a 10% discount on redeemed American Airlines miles. So all you have to do is pay the taxes and fees when you book your flight, and you're going to have 10% of those miles come back. So if you book a one-way in business class, say to Brazil, that's 50,000 miles, and shortly after you make that redemption, you're going to see 5,000 miles jump back into your account. That's good for a total of 10,000 miles per year or up to 100,000 miles redeemed. So that card, just for that value, is really worth hanging on to, and it's a great opportunity to pick it up with a lower than usual spend right now.
Yeah, that is pretty solid. It's a pretty rare benefit. Don't really see that all that often.
Yeah, it looks like the Barclays US Airways card is going to have that once they convert it to, I believe it's called the Aviator card. So as soon as they stop having the right to issue that card, some of the benefits are going to change, and one of the really valuable ones that's going to kick in is that card's also going to give the same discount of 10% on redeemed miles for American. So if you have more than 100,000, if you have 200,000 or more, and you're thinking you might redeem them all in 1 year, it might be worth having both of those cards open at the same time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Good compliments. Moving on to the next thing is a British Airways devaluation. So if you are holding on to a bunch of British Airways points, right now is probably some time to take some action. I see Eric's got some charts up right now about actually what the changes are going to entail.
Yeah, the big picture here is that if you're flying in economy, you're not going to see much of a change. In fact, they introduced off-peak pricing, which, as you guys might remember from previous episodes about redeeming points, airlines tend to split their pricing based on how full their flights are at any given time of year. So, for example, American Airlines, starting March 1st, is going to have off-peak pricing to South America. So instead of $30,000 each way, it's only $20,000 in saver at the economy level. And British Airways has introduced the same thing. So in all four tiers, which is economy, premium economy, business, and first, they have off-peak pricing. And so for certain dates of the year, you're going to pay a lower price. The bad news is that for the most part, they took their old prices and made those the off-peak and raised the price for the peak redemptions. If you are looking at economy redemptions, it's not all bad news. In fact, most of the economy has stayed the same or possibly been reduced a little bit in each of the zones. And remember, British Airways is a zone-based chart that prices each segment out separately. So it means you're looking for direct flights to get the most value, and the amount you pay in Avios points is going to be based on how many actual miles you've flown for that trip.
Yep, and then let's plug in too, Great Circle Mapper. That is the tool that you want to use when you need to figure out exactly how many miles you are flying. And another thing to keep in mind too, it's not about your point of departure and your point of arrival, it's about total miles flown. So if you have a connection that is, not in a direct path to where you're going, it's probably not a good use of points.
There is one interesting exception. I'm going to try and dig up the article that I read and see if I can get that into the show notes as well. But there's actually a couple of quirky spots where specific long-haul flights, if you break them up at the right place, you can actually save some miles. So this is just off the top of my head. I don't have the real example with me. But let's say, for example, if you were flying a direct from Los Angeles to Beijing, you might be paying, say, 50,000 miles in coach. But if you stopped in Honolulu, the two different segments from LA to Honolulu and Honolulu to Beijing actually add up to less than the total long-distance one-way flight. It's pretty rare, but there are a couple of spots like that. So it never hurts if you know there's a place you'd love to stop over on the way, or the airline route just works out that way. It's worth taking a look at. You can sometimes save a little bit of miles by stopping.
That's just kind of a glitch in their math. There's no way mathematically that as a business you would want to allow that opportunity, but I guess that is an opportunity I had not heard of before. So
gotta love it, man. Love that complexity. One other thing, let's go through a couple of quick examples of what actually changed with U.S. Airways. And this is coming courtesy of 1 Mile at a Time, one of my favorite boarding area blogs. And he gives a couple of examples. So from the east coast of the U.S. to London, the current award chart is 80,000 Avios round trip in business class and 120 in first. And that's going to go up to 100,000 and 136,000 respectively for off-peak, and 120 and 160,000 for first class. So basically, if you're looking at any time of the year, taking out of the equation for a minute the off-peak times, business class is going from 80,000 to 120, and first class is going from 120 to 160. So that's a big deal. Same kind of idea from the West Coast. With the current chart, you're looking at 100,000 in business class. That's going to go up to 150,000. And in first class, 150,000 is going up to 200,000. So the bottom line here is you have until the end of April, I believe April 28th, to make those redemptions, and you're going to be able to take advantage of the old pricing.
It's good stuff, man. So upcoming travels. I've got some upcoming travels. I haven't really talked with you about this. In the next month or two, do you have any tentative travel plans?
Yeah, I'm headed to Frequent Traveler University in Dallas. So that's going to be April 17th through 19th. And tickets are actually still on sale. I thought I was super cool and got one of these sold out tickets because almost all of their events sell out. And apparently the one that I bought didn't sell out, so there's still tickets on sale. I was sitting there hitting refresh on my browser, I'm not going to miss out this time. I had an alarm set. I got up at 7 a.m., bought my ticket, and a month later they're still available. So it's going to be a pretty awesome event. It's got speakers including Gary Leff of View from the Wing, Ben Schlappig. I'm not sure how to really say that, but 1 Mile at a Time.
Sorry, Ben.
Scott McKenzie from Travel Codex, and a slew of other really good travel bloggers, people with great information about award travel. I think it's going to be an awesome networking event and just a great time to be with a bunch of other nerds that love airfare, love traveling the world. So I'd love to see some of you guys out there, and definitely send along an email to eric@abroaders.com if you are thinking about making the trip. And we can plan to grab a beer or something.
Cool, man. My upcoming travel is much less academic and good for the business than yours. I've got a bachelor party in San Diego with some friends I used to play ball with at Michigan State, and it's gonna be a good time. It's gonna be maybe a little bit out of control, but which good bachelor parties are not. But that'll be exciting. That's in the end of February and the beginning of March. Play a little bit of golf, hang out at the beach, do some brewery tours. Brazil is amazing, but the beer here absolutely sucks.
It's terrible,
So
but it's cold.
It is cold. It is stupidly cold, as they will tell you. And then this is not our travel plans, but some plans coming up. We've got some folks visiting us here in Salvador for Carnival. We've done the last 3 carnivals in Rio. It was amazing, but Salvador is the fabled location for Brazil Carnival. They're supposed to do it bigger, badder, and better than any other city. So we had to break the tradition of Rio and see for ourselves. So we've got some buddies coming in from the U.S. and a buddy from the U.K. coming in. So it should be a pretty solid time. Nice roster we've got.
Yeah, really excited about that. It's interesting, like obviously the people from Rio are going to tell you that the Rio Carnival is the best, but everybody else tells you that the Salvador Carnival is the best. It's not just the Baianos, not just the people from the state of Bahia, not just the people from the city of Salvador. Everybody else in Brazil seems to think that this is the place to be. So I'm really excited to check it out. And we are in a neighborhood called Ungina. It's right on the carnival circuit. Mm-hmm. And unlike Rio, where things are pretty distributed, there's blocos in lots of different parts of the city, Salvador really just has 1 or 2 core spots where the carnival parades go through. So it should make it a little bit easier logistically to get out and around, and also just a totally different type of carnival. I think we're in for pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely update you guys and see if we give it our vote of approval. In a little bit of travel tips here, was it Travis of Extra Pack of Peanuts that brought up? Yeah, okay. Thanks to Travis of Extra Pack of Peanuts, who was on our show last week. He pointed out a pretty interesting tip. It's a rule that USA carriers have to follow. So U.S. carriers are required to give you at least 24 hours to get a refund on your flight. So a good example would be if you see a mistake fare for $140 to Asia and you don't know if those dates will work out, absolutely go ahead, secure your seat on the flight. And the worst case scenario, if you figure out that you can't figure out lodging or maybe you can't get those days off work, within 24 hours you get a full refund. So that's pretty slick. I actually did not know that. So
yeah, a couple of rules and obviously really important things to make sure you're aware of. This only applies to fares booked more than 7 days in advance of departure. So if you're only a couple of days out, you don't have that same protection. The other thing is that the way that the law is written in the US, the airlines have to give you that 24-hour refund policy, or they have to let you hold tickets for 24 hours. And so American Airlines is an important exception in that they let you hold a fare and not pay for it using their website. And so if you do pay for it with American, there is going to be a fee for that change. So in the case of American Airlines, you just want to use the feature on their website where you can hold that ticket and use that time to make the 24-hour, use that 24-hour period to make your final decision. All the other airlines, as far as I know, have it set up so that you can get that refund within 24 hours. This also applies to foreign airlines. So any other carriers that are selling fares in the US, you're going to want to double check and just make sure that you're buying the fare through the airline in question. So it's probably not a good idea to depend on Orbitz or Kayak or one of those aggregator sites to help you through this. So if you're thinking there's a chance you might want to make a change, you should book it directly with the airline. But this is a huge value point for people that want to lock up a fare and just want to have that flexibility to know that they're not 100% committed.
Yeah, or if you're outside of that 7-day window and you've got a big time event, whether it be a party or just any big time event that flights are getting really expensive and you want to secure a spot and you're not sure, go ahead if you get a good price, book that flight and then figure stuff out from then on.
All right. So now we're going to get into some talk about how you can maintain and grow your business while you're abroad. We've had some really productive days here since you got in at the end of January, and we wanted to share some of this with you guys because we think we certainly don't know everything about this, but it's been about 4 years that we've been on the road and traveling. And we've learned a lot about.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely made so many mistakes. We've had the luxury to learn from, and we've managed to fight and scrap and stay alive in business and stay cash flowing enough to keep the party going. But so we've broken this down into a few different sections that we think make sense to group these different things, these different ways, and explain them. So logistics, this is going to be your internet, housing, tools, different things to access websites you need. We're going to touch on opportunity cost. I think there's some serious traps that digital nomads set up for themselves, trying to save money at all costs and forgetting what opportunity cost is. We're going to touch on kind of how we go about managing our team. We've got a team all over in the US, in Europe, and in Asia, so that can be a little bit complex. We're going to share some tools on that. And then some lifestyle stuff, how you can have a good time while you're working your ass off and leveraging the location you're in to maximize business opportunities that you would not have otherwise if you were not in that location. So we're going to start off with logistics. The first thing on the list is more of just you probably need this and should pay a premium for this, high-speed internet. We've got great internet here.
Yeah, we're really fortunate. And this was a lesson that I learned absolutely the hard way last time. I got into an apartment in Baja, which is pretty close. It's a great place to be in Salvador if you're going to spend some time here. But the problem was that the building that I went to had internet, but the internet wasn't in my apartment. It was building shared internet. And so I was victim to anybody that wanted to grab all that bandwidth, or if the internet went down, it wasn't within my control to pull it out of the wall and stick it back in and see if you can get a reset. And that was catastrophic for me work-wise. I ended up having to get like a super expensive 3G plan with like 10 gigs of data that I was just trying to work off of a phone tether. And that really slowed me down. It, certainly helped to learn some skills to work offline here and there, but you want to take care of that. One specific tip for Brazil is that you're going to need the fabled CPF number to be able to set up anything here. So this includes your high-speed internet, includes your cell service. It's basically like a social security or identification number, but it's not quite as secret here because you need it for everything. So it's actually pretty easy to get a Brazilian friend to lend you their number to sign up for a phone plan or something like that. But just be aware you're going to need that, and it can be a little bit tricky to get things set up if you don't speak Portuguese.
A little piece if you're outside of Brazil, if you've lined up accommodation and you've already paid for a place, or actually what I just say is before you pay for a place, if you're going to commit, is have them do a speed test. And you can have them just go to speedtest.net and they can show you how many up and how many down you're getting. So if a place claims to have fast Wi-Fi, I mean, that is all relative, especially with non-technical people in parts of the world where fast internet is not as prevalent. So, I mean, if you plan on working from your place, it is absolutely crucial to have good internet. So just go through those kind of precautionary steps.
Yep. All right, so next thing, another lesson that I learned the hard way yesterday is you definitely want to have good health coverage and make sure that you're covered internationally. Now, fortunately, I do have healthcare. I have Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is a plan from Michigan, but they are national in the U.S. They have different divisions in lots of states, and they do cover out-of-network care. I ended up having some kind of crazy allergic reaction and had to go to the hospital to see if I could get treated. And it worked out okay, but the hospital bill still ran about $400 US. And it was a little bit trickier than I thought to get through the
I overheard your conversation on the phone, and it kind of bang your head against a cement wall,
Yeah, they insist on having original receipts. So I'm actually going to try just emailing my receipts to somebody in the US that can print them and mail them out. I don't think they're going to know the difference, but that's a huge pain in the ass and something you probably want to look into before you decide on your healthcare plan. I would not recommend Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's a pain to switch up healthcare plans, so I'll probably ride it out and see how this claim goes. But I definitely think it's a good idea to have some supplemental insurance when you're traveling. Just get a travel healthcare plan that's going to cover you and is designed to accept claims from abroad, because mailing something to the U.S. from Brazil is not a fun experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And we can link in the show notes too. Rick Steves actually has some resources on that. And also, I've had quite a bit of luck with e-health insurance, getting that supplementary stuff, because I'm a little bit less detail-oriented than Eric, and I didn't feel like reading through all of my terms and conditions of my healthcare in the U.S., so I just, it's pretty cheap to cover yourself from the catastrophic stuff, which is really the main concern, to make sure you're not left with a $800,000 evacuation bill if you get hit by a motorcycle or something bogus happens.
Yeah, watch out for those motorbikes.
Cell service is another thing. That's less important than fast internet, but, I mean, Eric, you've got the T-Mobile thing that has been working great for you. I don't have the T-Mobile thing, and it works out just fine, but it was a pain in the ass because, once again, we're in Brazil. The fabled Brazilian social security number was needed, and the process looked like this for me to get my cell. So TIM is they're kind of the Verizon of Brazil. I go to a TIM store and politely informed that they can't help me, but they can send me to another place in this mall. I go to that mall and they inform me they have the chip, but it won't fit my phone. So then we have to go to iPhone World, where they go and cut the chip, and we have to pay them to cut the chip, and they put it in my phone. and then we walked back to the other reseller. It was kind of a
it was about a 4-stop process. And I mean, you would think that a cell phone store would have cell phone SIM cards, but not all the time, and sometimes you got to get it cut to the right size or whatever. So it is really helpful, especially if you know you're going to have to buy a chip. You can buy on Amazon the cutter for like $2 or $3 and get it shipped to you. So it's probably worth throwing that in your bag just to make sure you've got the tool that'll cut any SIM card down to the right size. Turned out that they did have a place that was willing to do it for about 10 reais, but better safe than sorry. I would probably carry one of those with me next time.
And also the moral of the story as well is if T-Mobile offers decent service where you live in the U.S., if that's important to you, I mean, the difference between Erik and I is Erik gets off the plane, turns his phone on, and he's up and running, and me, I'm waiting till I can go to the shopping plaza to get a SIM card figured out, because Brazil's airports don't quite have the vending that other places in the world do, where you're like, even in Thailand you can get a SIM card like right
on your way out.
Not here. So
one other thing about the T-Mobile plan that's a big advantage is that you have access to multiple carriers in each country. So I can have my phone set to automatic, and it will switch between TIM and Vivo and Oi and Nextel Brazil. And so I've got 4 different carriers, and so I get the best of all worlds. So, if the service sucks in a particular place, it'll naturally switch over to something else that's a little bit better. So that can be a big benefit as well.
Yeah. The next piece of logistics that we're talking about is one of the most important. This is going to be where you are living. So the debate is kind of Airbnb versus, private market accommodation. So obviously Airbnb is going to be a lot easier to find places, and it's easier to know what you're getting, but without a doubt that's going to be more expensive. So the longer you're going to stay in a place, the more time it is worth to possibly hustle around and ask some folks and maybe even look for some buildings that, have some for rent signs or something like that. And that's what we did here, and we got what I believe is a really good deal. I've done some scouting on Airbnb. If we would have gone the Airbnb route, we'd probably be spending about twice as much a month. So we definitely...
Yeah, we ended up with a 3-bedroom place for about $650 a month. So, and that was because we went the sort of back channels and looked for a place in the local market. And so knowing Portuguese was a huge help there. But if you don't know the language, there's lots of ways to work around this. So I would suggest actually one of the best ways is to get integrated with the couchsurfing community where you're staying, because those people are really well connected. They'll know other people that maybe have a room to rent or a full apartment to rent. And even if you don't speak the local language, you can find somebody on Couchsurfing that speaks English, and a lot of times those folks will be willing to help you out. So this is going to come into the opportunity cost thing that we're going to cover in a few minutes. It really depends on how long you're staying. To pay an extra couple $100 to get into a place quick and be able to just pay on credit card with Airbnb, that can be a good deal if you're staying in the short term.
Yeah. But another benefit about this place too is it was just a really nice opportunity. There's no way that we should be paying this amount of money for this place, but it was kind of a, as far as the rental market goes, it's almost like a distressed property. The situation, the guy that owns this place, he's recently married, he's busy, he's got other properties. The last thing he wanted to do was continue to meet with people. So we definitely this was a buyer's market for us, and we definitely, got the good end of this deal as far as we're concerned. And he just wanted to dump the property, collect some cash, and not manage this thing anymore. So definitely we got keyed about that.
All right, so let's talk about a couple of tools. I just wanted to share a few tools that I'm using to make it a little bit easier to get work done here in Brazil. And I recently switched over to TorGuard, which is a VPN service. VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and it basically allows you to submit your IP address as if it's coming from whatever country you choose your VPN connection. And that can be a really big deal if you're trying to take care of online banking stuff, or if you're trying to access, certain websites in your normal language. I mean, one of the things that drives me nuts is when I'm looking at bookings for customers and I'm suddenly reading pages on Google Flights Brazil in Portuguese. That's not the easiest way to do it. It makes it a lot easier to make mistakes. Half the other countries in the world reverse the dates. So, like having the sites in your own language, and just that can make a big difference. And also, if you want to watch some sports, you want to catch up on stuff.
ESPN3, Netflix. And then, one of the biggest benefits that most people overlook because it's just not on the radar is security. If you're one of these cafe hustlers and you're accessing, public Wi-Fi, you really are super vulnerable to get absolutely demolished with whether it be identity theft and if you have a VPN, that definitely protects you from that. And, if you're, somebody out there doing even like web development or a little bit about WordPress and you're accessing your FTP, that's not stuff. And if you have a good FTP client, I use CyberDuck, and that will kind of be like, hey, it's not secure, do you want to continue? That's a nice reminder. But definitely, if you're going to be doing anything sensitive, use a VPN while you're abroad, or even in the US from a public Wi-Fi spot.
Yeah, the library and cafe Wi-Fi. I mean, it's really easy to just write it off and say like, oh, there's nobody in the room that's trying to hack my connection. But it only takes once for somebody to grab critical information.
Another interesting thing too with malls, what some people are doing is just setting up false routers where they'll put their own router in like the proximity of a building, and they'll have a very similar name, and it'll be free Wi-Fi, and you can connect and you can use it, but they also can own you. So if you're in a restaurant called Carlos's Steakhouse, it could be like Carlos's Steakhouse free Wi-Fi 1, and that's not Carlos's Steakhouse Wi-Fi. It is the bad guy's Wi-Fi that's going to steal all your information.
Yeah.
All right, so those are the most crucial tools that at least Eric and I are leveraging right now to grant us a little bit of security and also just make our lives easier as far as accessing the sites we need to access. That's, I would imagine, pretty common for anyone out there listening that is doing some globetrotting and working from other countries. You've probably got your core list of websites that you absolutely need for your business to thrive, and having a VPN. And what I actually have been using too is it's a cool, it's a browser extension. It's kind of cutting-edge VPN technology. It's not an actual VPN client that you have to download or anything. It's also free. It's called Ola, and I believe the website is just ola.org. It's got 40 million users worldwide, and it's really solid too. And you can actually pick the country that you want to browse from. So, obviously I picked the U.S. where we're from. Pick your country, and then you can access all the stuff you want to access.
Awesome. And just to clarify, that is just for directing where your browsing is coming from. It's not going to provide the extra security that you want.
That's the thing. If I do anything important, I use my strong VPN account. But I don't know enough about this to trust it as my VPN, but it is a VPN. Okay. I just don't quite understand the technology. I do know there's something revolutionary about it being a browser extension as opposed to a client you have on your computer. But definitely ola.org is worthwhile. At the very least, you can watch Netflix and ESPN3 and enjoy some websites from home.
Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what we've set up here to save us some extra time and make it possible for us to either spend more time working or spend more time having fun and actually getting out to enjoy Salvador. So we got the apartment set up, and we wanted to be able to get right to work when we get up in the morning, get everything knocked out for the day, and be able to go out for drinks with friends or hit the beach and enjoy ourselves a little bit. And the three biggest wins, I think, from our perspective so far have been getting a cleaning service, getting somebody that can take care of laundry, and having somebody that can cook up a couple of meals for us a week that are going to be just prepared in the fridge, ready to go. That saved us dozens of hours, I think, already.
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely had a philosophical shift where it's so easy to be growing your business and maybe your revenue's not where you want to be, and you view a penny saved as a penny earned, but that is absolutely not the case. All a penny saved is a penny saved minus your very precious time equals probably a bad ROI for you. So I mean, don't be outrageous with how you spend your money, but do understand the opportunity cost. And this is even today. Eric and I had a lot of stuff to do. The bus is a pretty solid, cheap option. Eric took the taxi because it's way faster and we had work to do. It was easy to pay the extra $5 or $10 just so you could get back here and we could crank out more work.
Yeah, and especially those logistics like laundry stuff. It's not fun to go sit at a laundromat. It's not the type of place, at least not in Brazil, where you're going to be able to take your computer and go get on the Wi-Fi and get some work done while you're at it. And even worse, for a couple of weeks until we found this person that can come by and help out with that, I was washing laundry by hand. And that's not a terrible use.
It's not fun. Yeah, so that's I think been a pretty big thing that could save us. I don't know, man. We get maybe freed up 10 plus hours a week, which is huge for. I mean, pick your poison, man. Social life or growing your business. I mean, there's no reason we should be spending our time, scrubbing the floors and washing our clothes. And we're really trying to crush this business.
Right on. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how we've managed being able to check in with each other before you got here, and then also check-ins with our virtual staff in different locations around the world. So far in the last 5 months, we've been to at least 5 or 6 different time zones. And so that can definitely wreak havoc when you've got regularly scheduled check-ins and you need to be able to sync up with your team to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Mm-hmm. You want to start with kind of how we handled when you were in Asia and I was in the U.S., the daily accountability and the handoff, Doc?
Yeah, so I think accountability was super important for us. We've been working together for 4 years now on a couple of different businesses. And so I think we've got probably even a higher level of trust and a great working relationship than a lot of people that are trying to collaborate with other entrepreneurs. But having that accountability email, basically what we did is at the end of every single day, AJ would send me a list of all the stuff he got done that day and everything that was on his schedule for tomorrow and any notes on stuff that he failed at, anything that he didn't get done, that he said he'd get done. And so every single morning or evening, I knew I could look in my inbox and see what AJ was up to. And I knew it was also my responsibility to send my end of that email back. And that was really helpful.
Yeah, it also helps you, avoid from dropping the ball. I think a huge problem lots of entrepreneurs have, especially when they grow, is communication and customer service. It's tough to set up your systems. And so if Erik saw that I didn't complete something I said I was going to do and he knew it was important, he could do it. And the key was just sticking to it. I think there's a couple times where I emailed him something along the lines of, closed a sale, did this, had a massive headache, didn't get shit done the rest of the day, slept it off, I'll be at it tomorrow. And at least he knows when he saw my email that I didn't get a whole lot of shit done, but I had a nasty migraine that sidelined me, so he wasn't worried about what the hell I'm up to. We had, just that open communication every day, and that really helps you avoid from going more than a day or two, missing really important things.
Yeah, that was critical, especially when we were so far apart time zone-wise. It actually turned into more of a handoff when I was in Asia and you were back in Michigan, and I would work all day and knock off at, say, 7 or 8 o'clock at night and send off that handoff email with everything that I was working on. And within a couple of hours, you were up and working. So we were basically, it was great. Our team was working around the clock.
Yeah, that was pretty dominant. Yeah, but that was really good. So definitely if you're out there collaborating with people, even if you're in the same time zone and just not in the same city, if you're not doing something like that, it's huge. And it doesn't have to be a 45-minute call to talk about a bunch of stuff. It's kind of responsive. It works on its own,
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to hear back from the community if any of you guys have other strategies or ways that you're able to stay on task and either keep yourself accountable or maintain accountability with a business partner or somebody else that you're working with. The next tool I want to share is our scheduling tool. We actually have been experimenting with two. One of them is called Calendly, and it's totally free as long as you only want one time period for meetings. So you can pick to have 30-minute meetings, and you can use Calendly absolutely free. And then the other one is Schedule Once, which I think runs about $5 a month. And those are really useful because they let people schedule with you in their own time zones availability. So if AJ's got his calendar set up, I can look and see exactly when he's free to talk, and I can just grab a time on there and he'll get a notification to know that we've scheduled something and be able to follow up. And that's been huge for our consultations.
Yeah, that's been great too, and I think it's cut out the confusion. We were originally doing Calendly, and there's some issues that we had on the technical side of it, but the main thing was I was having to follow up with people and say, hey, by the way, this is Eastern time, where in Calendly, having people schedule on their own time, and it knows our time, where I can see 4:30, I've got a call with Nancy at my time, and it's 1:30 in her time, and there's no additional communication that's necessary, and also it gives the person scheduling an opportunity to give notes. So it's sweet. Somebody will schedule something along the lines of, hey guys, heard your podcast. I've got a bunch of American miles and I want to go to Europe. So before Erik and I get on the call, we can do our homework and we can have a really solid call and at least maybe help the people or maybe bring them on as a customer.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, if you are looking for help, you can find our consultation request at abroaders.com/consultation. And it will redirect you over to our calendar where you can grab whatever spot works for you, and we'll hop on the phone and talk about how to make your travel goals happen. All right, so we've been talking a lot about work, and we have been working quite a bit, but that is definitely not the only thing that we've been up to. And I think it's definitely been really important for me to try and make some expectations about how often I'm going to be working and make sure that I can maximize the rest of that time. so that I can go out and do some interesting stuff while I'm here in Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think a lot of the lifestyle design people and the digital nomads, they sell the dream, and that's good, and the freedom is amazing. But Eric and I right now, we're not interested in drinking coconut water on the beach and talking about how good life is. We're really excited about our idea. We're spending a lot of time on our idea, and we're happily doing so because we see a really high ceiling and some upside. But that being said, lifestyle is important, and even though we're working a lot, we both want to do things. And actually, here's a tip for folks traveling that I've kind of run into, the people I've met recently. I really needed to hit home and over-communicate to them that I'm here working. Some people, I think, were a little bit offended that I wouldn't go joining them at the beach to get drunk at 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. I just really had to make it explicit, like, no, I am not in Brazil vacationing. I'm here living short-term, and I'm working with my business partner, and that is our number one goal. I'm going to be done with work at 9 p.m. Let's go to the Casa da Gina and have some beers and eat some macaroni, So that's been something that I've experienced and probably other people have as well.
So let's do a quick back and forth here. What are the top skills that are non-work related that you want to build while you're here in Brazil?
Man, the first one is my Portuguese, and I've been fairly proud of myself. I've put myself in some pretty difficult situations. A couple weekends ago, Eric had plans, and so I met some folks, and I went to this beach house with a bunch of Brazilians, and they spoke a little bit of English, but it was pretty much 48 hours of me just racking my brain to communicate in Portuguese and try to be a part of the conversation and contribute. So language learning is a huge one. I think the next thing I'd like to learn is some form of martial arts. Part of it is this is a little bit of a dangerous city, and another thing, I think it's just a pretty cool skill set to have, whether it be to protect yourself or your friends, man. How about you?
Yeah, well, so I think I'm actually really focused right now on learning cavaquinho, which is a Brazilian instrument that's a lot like the ukulele. It's just actually a little bit different tuning, and instead of the plastic strings, it's got metal strings. But cavaquinho, we're going to actually play a clip of the cavaquinho for you here, and you can hear what it sounds like. Pretty awesome instrument.
It's a really cool instrument. Also, highly mobile. Much easier to travel with than a guitar.
Yeah, that's a huge win. You don't have to be that jerk taking up the whole overhead rack with your stupid guitar.
Oh man, one more thing I forgot to mention that I think is pretty cool, and I urge everyone to try if you enjoy even somewhat being in the kitchen, is not just kitchen, but also with drinks and being involved in making drinks. Learn how to make a signature drink or cocktail from where you're doing your short-term living or slow traveling, or learn how to make a dish. It's pretty cool. I mean, our caipirinha skills are not at a Brazilian standard yet, but we're improving, and that's a pretty cool thing if you ever have friends over, have friends meet you from the U.S. to kind of share some of those things, whether it's prepare a meal for them that you've learned how to cook from a local, or making a particular drink or cocktail.
Cool. And we've also got a couple of other musical instruments. The one that you heard at the top of the episode is the berimbau, and that is probably the strangest instrument I've ever heard. It's basically just a long curved stick, kind of like a bow and arrow with a metal wire, and it's played with a stick that you hit the metal wire and a rock that you use to mute the wire. So that's that sort of twangy, interesting thing that started out at the top of the episode. And we've got one more for you that we'll drop a little bit later in the show called the cuica. And that's
an interesting
I mean, I bet you that unless somebody's actually already knows what this thing is, you would never picture the way this thing
that's the thing. I was so confused the first time. There was the typical carnival, percussion band going by, and I could not believe that sound was coming from that thing.
So let's roll that clip right now, actually, and think to yourself, what kind of instrument makes this sound?
Cuica!
I'm going to bet that most of you were not thinking that this is a drum.
Yeah.
So the cuica is it's a drum with a metal stick, a metal rod that's on the inside, and you take like a cloth and basically polish this metal rod and use your fingers to tap on the head of the drum, and that's how you change the pitch. So we'll link over. I've actually got a pretty awesome video from YouTube that we grabbed the audio file from. So we'll share that in the show notes as well if you're curious to see how this thing works.
Yeah. Man, you got any other lifestyle things? I mean, I think we've been pretty healthy here. It's been good to if you're into exercising. I know for me in the past, back home, I do like to try to get into the gym and stay in reasonable shape, and it's sometimes hard finding a reliable gym. I mean, we lucked out. We've got a very modest, but it gets the job done gym that's just about 15 feet away from our apartment. But
hard to be lazy when you got that kind of setup. One last thing I want to do before we jump to the international jam here is to share a couple of tips for leveraging your travel location for personal networking. So AJ and I actually just recently had a really good call with an angel investor who is in Sao Paulo, and we're going to fly down there after Carnival to meet up with him and talk a little bit about the Abroaders idea, see if we can get some advice on how we should approach raising money when we're ready to do that for Abroaders. But the bigger picture here is that we have been able to build such strong relationships when we're able to meet with people in person.
Right.
It's great. There's a lot of folks that are really cool and will hop on Skype with you and you can have great conversations and start the relationship that way. But there's a huge difference between doing that and meeting somebody in person. And so if you're in a place where you know somebody is living that is either a potential mentor or a role model for you, might be able to teach you something about your business, make sure you take advantage of being there. Not only is it much easier to build a quality relationship, but it's a lot easier to get somebody to take a meeting. If you're just sending somebody emails, hey, can we get on Skype? Can we talk? That's a lot different than, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. I would love to meet up with you.
And it also shows these people that you're serious. I mean, calling this guy up and saying, hey, when should we book our flight down to Sao Paulo? That's now you're talking business, not hey, do you think you could possibly hop on Skype with me sometime? No, man, we're looking at flights right now. When should we come?
Yeah, tell the story you were telling me about the guy that got the internship with Gary Vee.
Yeah, this is a really cool story. So actually, this is a guy that I interviewed a couple weeks ago for a podcast. We just haven't had time to edit the show and get it on here. But Bud Hennekes of the Boundless World podcast. Here's how the story goes. So he actually had an apprenticeship for Gary Vee. For those of you that don't know, he's the VaynerMedia guy. He wrote Crush It, the New York Times bestselling book. But he kind of just hassled Gary Vee and sent him some emails and tweeted at him and stuff. And Gary Vee was actually nice enough to, say, well, something along the lines of, if you're ever in town, well, maybe we can meet for coffee or something. And this Bud guy just pulled the trigger. He said, when should I book my flight? I'll come whenever. And Gary Vee gave him a date. He had some American miles, and he flew to New York, and he ended up working with Gary Vee, which for him was a really big deal. Gary Vee was an amazing mentor, and it's an awesome kind of notch on his belt as far as a resume goes, and just kind of having the experience of working around that. So that's the power of just saying yes and booking a flight. And
how many cents per point you think you got on those American miles?
Oh, Jesus, man, that's you can't even calculate that. That's
thousands, baby. All right, so a couple of quick tools to use to be able to get your network primed before you get to your location. We wrote a blog post a little while back on using Facebook graph search. And basically the idea behind this is to be able to select friends of friends that are in a certain place or friends of friends that have been in a certain place. The blog post explains in really clear detail what you need to do to actually set this up. But the bottom line is that it connects you with people that you can ask for an introduction. So you can say, hey, John, you were living in Salvador last year. Is there anybody that's still there that would be a great connection for me? I'm looking to achieve these things. And I've had some amazing intros come out that way. Are there any other ones that come to mind for you?
Yeah, there actually is. So the first one is Tinder. And I know what a lot of people are thinking. Tinder is not just an app for promiscuous behavior. Tinder is whatever you want it to be. And I've actually had a lot of success connecting with really cool people here on Tinder. And the beach house I went to with a really cool group of Brazilians where we hung out, played guitar, and shared stories, that was something through Tinder. And there's actually a new premium kind of play on Tinder app. I don't know if it's by the same company, but for like $3, you can change your location on Tinder. So if you know you're going to be traveling somewhere, you can begin to build your network. And I actually started building my network in Salvador before I got here, and I had some connections from this app where I'd created a dialogue and already had plans to meet up with these people, and I kind of explained my story, what I'm going to be doing here. I've got a friend, he's seeing somebody here, and it's been really cool to kind of hit the ground running. I mean, I got off the plane, and once I got my phone working, I was messaging these people to make plans and have a social life.
Pretty awesome. I guess the last one that I'd want to just throw out there is couch surfing can also be a great way to get into the local network, especially if you don't have any friends after you try that graph search that are really related to the place you're going. Couch surfing has thriving communities in thousands of cities around the world, and so I highly recommend you check that out. Go to one of the weekly meetups and just see if there's some cool people that can connect you. And also, as we said before, can certainly help with the logistics of getting things like internet, cell phone, housing, and finding your way around the city, getting to know the cool places.
Yeah, that's a huge point, man. You got any other things about Salvador and what we're doing working here?
Nah, we got Carnival coming up. I guess last ditch attempt. There are still some mileage seats available, both on United and American, to get to Brazil for Carnival. We would love to see you down here.
All right, so this week's International Jam of the Week is actually local for us because hailing from Salvador, Bahia, Brazil, is a band called Cascadura. The track is Gigante. These guys are a real cool band. They've been at it for like 23 years now. They started in 1992. They are an indie rock band, not in the sense of a genre of indie rock, but they said damn the man to the record labels. They do everything themselves, and their manager, super cool. They were influenced by the Rolling Stones, Beatles, Big Star, Beach Boys, Byrds, Black Crowes, Queens of the Stone Age, David Bowie, The Clash, all these cool rock bands. And they're just a really cool band. And we saw them just like 10-minute walk, 5-10-minute walk from our apartment the other night at a kind of modest little bar, man. Just seemed like super cool dudes, put on a great show. So hope you enjoy this one. This is Gigante by Cascadura.
See you guys next week. Hey brothers, don't be shy. Hop over to the website and join our email list for exclusive travel hacking content. If you like what we're up to, the best way you can support the show is by leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes. Lastly, we would love to hear from you, so send your show feedback to Erik or AJ at abroaders.com. We will see you next week.